I didn't notice it at first because nothing felt wrong. The park looked normal, wide. Paths, tall trees, open space, people walking, sitting, talking quietly, everything exactly as it should be. I entered from the main gate, just like I had before. There were multiple paths ahead. Some curved left, some right, some went straight. I chose one without thinking. That's how it usually works. You pick a direction and you go. Simple. I walked for a while. Nothing unusual. The path curved gently. Trees on both sides. Soft light through the branches. Calm. After some time, I reached a small open area. A circular space. Paths leading out in multiple directions. I slowed down. Looked around. There were at least 4 paths. Each one different, or at least they seemed different. I chose the one on the right. Started walking. A few minutes passed. Then I stopped because something felt familiar. Not wrong. Just. Repeated. I looked ahead. The path curved, just like before. The trees, same spacing, the light, same angle. I frowned slightly, then kept walking. And after a few more minutes, I reached the same open space. The circular area. 4 paths. Exactly the same. I stopped. Looked around carefully. It felt identical. Not similar. The same. I turned slowly. Checked each path. Same shapes. Same layout. I stepped into the center. Stood still. Nothing changed. I checked my phone. Time had passed normally. No gaps. That didn't help. I took a breath, then chose a different path. This time, the one on the left, I walked faster. More focused, paying attention. Counting steps, watching details. The trees. The ground, the spacing. Everything looked slightly different. Enough to feel like progress. After a while, I slowed down because I saw something ahead. The open space. Again. Same circle. Same paths. I stopped at the edge. Didn't step in immediately. Just looked and quietly said, "No," because now it was clear. It wasn't coincidence. I stepped into the center. Turned slowly. Each path looked valid. Looked different, but led here. I stood still. Thinking. Then tried something simple. I picked a path and walked only a few steps. Then stopped. Turned back. Returned to the center. It was still the same. No shift. No change. I nodded slowly. Then tried again. Another path. Longer this time. More distance. More time. Still it led back. I exhaled. Because now I understood something important. It wasn't about choosing wrong. It was that choice didn't matter. I walked to the center again. Looked at all 4 paths. Then said quietly, "They're all the same." The park remained silent, but something about it felt structured. Intentional. I stepped forward again. This time, I didn't choose based on direction. I chose randomly. No logic. No pattern. Just movement. I walked. Longer this time, more than before. The path curved, changed slightly, but not enough. And eventually, I reached it again. The same place. The circle. I stopped. Not surprised this time. Just aware. Because now it was clear. This wasn't a loop. It wasn't repetition. It was convergence. Every direction led to the same point. I stood in the center. And for the first time, I didn't look at the paths. I looked at the space itself. The circle. The symmetry. The balance. And quietly said, "This is the only place." The silence didn't respond, but it felt correct. I looked down. The ground was untouched. No marks. No signs. Nothing to guide me. Only the paths, and they all led here. I took a slow breath, then stepped toward one of them again. But this time, I wasn't trying to leave. I was trying to understand, because now I knew something important. If every direction leads to the same place, then the way out isn't a direction. I didn't leave the center right away. Not this time, because now I understood something simple. The paths weren't different. They only looked different. And that meant choosing between them didn't matter. I stood still, in the exact middle. And for the first time, I stopped trying to pick. That changed something. Not around me, inside the space. The silence became clearer, more focused. I looked at the paths. Again, left, right, forward, back, They still looked like options, but now they didn't feel like choices. I stepped toward one, then stopped. Not because I hesitated, because I realized movement wasn't solving anything. I stepped back into the center, then slowly turned in place, watching carefully. And this time, I noticed something new. The paths didn't just look the same. They behaved the same, no matter which one I faced. The distance felt identical, the curve, the spacing, the depth, everything matched, too perfectly. I took a slow breath, then did something different. Instead of choosing a direction, I closed my eyes, just for a moment, and took a step forward, without looking, without deciding, just moving. I opened my eyes. The path was there, same as before. I kept walking, not thinking, not analyzing, just moving. And after a while, I slowed down, because something felt different. Not the path, the feeling, less resistance, less repetition. I stopped, just for a second, then stepped forward again. And that's when I noticed it. The path ahead didn't curve the same way, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable, but real. I looked more carefully. The trees, slightly different spacing. The ground less uniform. I exhaled slowly, then said quietly, "This is new." The silence didn't change, but it felt aligned again. I continued walking, carefully, not rushing, not stopping completely. Just steady, and the further I went, the more the difference appeared, small, but consistent. I didn't look back, because I didn't want to reset anything. I kept moving forward, step by step. And then I saw something ahead, not the circle. Something else, a break in the pattern. I slowed down, but didn't stop, and as I got closer, I understood what it was. Not a new place. Variation, the circle again, but slightly different. I stepped into it, carefully, the shape was the same, but one path was missing. There were only 3 now. I stood in the center, looked around slowly, then nodded, because now it made sense. The paths weren't guiding me out. They were reducing, each time, less choice, less repetition, more precision. I turned toward one of the paths, then paused and said quietly, "It's not about choosing." The silence held, stable, I stepped forward again, this time without thinking of direction, without labeling it. Just moving, because now I understood something clearly. The park didn't trap you with options. It removed them, until only one remained. And that one wouldn't feel like a choice, it would feel correct. I continued walking, and for the first time I wasn't trying to leave. I was letting the path simplify. Didn't count the time anymore. It didn't feel important. What mattered now was consistency, movement, awareness. I kept walking, not choosing, not comparing, just following what felt stable. The path ahead remained clear, not identical anymore. Slight differences, subtle, but enough. After some time, I saw it again. The circle. I stepped into it slowly. This time, there were only 2 paths. I stopped in the center, looked at them, left, right, for a moment. It felt like a decision again. But I didn't react. I stood still, waited. And then something changed. Not in the paths, in how they felt. One of them felt heavier, not physically, just less aligned. The other felt quiet, clear. I nodded slowly, because now I understood that the difference wasn't visual dot. It was internal. I stepped forward, toward the quieter path, without hesitation, without checking dot, just moving. The moment I did, the space responded dot, not dramatically dot, but clearly. The path held, didn't repeat, didn't loop. I kept walking dot, steady dot, and after a while I noticed something new. The park was changing dot, not in structure dot, in density. Fewer trees, more space dot, less repetition. I didn't look back dot, because now I trusted the process. I continued forward, and then I saw it again. The circle. I stepped into it dot, slowly dot, this time. There was only one path. No alternatives dot, no symmetry dot, just one direction. I stood in the center dot, and for the first time I smiled slightly, because now there was nothing to choose. I looked at the single path that it didn't feel like an option dot, it felt inevitable dot. I took a step forward, and immediately everything aligned dot, the silence, the space dot, the distance, all consistent. I walked dot, calmly dot, without doubt, and after some time I noticed something ahead dot, not another circle, something else, a boundary dot, not visible dot, but present. The air felt different. The space opened. I slowed down, but didn't stop dot, and as I stepped closer, I understood. This wasn't another stage dot. This was the end of the pattern. I paused dot just for a second, then stepped forward again, because now there was nothing left to figure out. No direction to choose dot, no pattern to decode dot, only continuation dot, and quietly, I said, there was never more than one way. The silence didn't answer, but everything around me felt complete. Continued walking, and this time the path didn't lead back. I didn't stop at the boundary. Not anymore. There was no reason to. Nothing left to question. I stepped forward, and the moment I did, the space changed dot, not suddenly, not sharply dot, just naturally dot. The trees became less dense, the path wider, the air lighter. I kept walking. Everything felt stable dot, no repetition dot, no pull backward, just forward movement. After a while, I began to hear it dot, sound dot, distant at first dot, then clearer dot, wind dot, soft movement of leaves. Something I hadn't noticed before, or maybe something that wasn't there before. I slowed slightly, not stopping, just noticing. The world felt different now dot, not controlled, not structured in the same way, more natural. I looked ahead dot, and saw it. The edge of the park dot, open space beyond. Street dot, familiar dot. I kept walking dot, step by step. And for the first time, there was no hesitation dot, no doubt, because now it didn't feel like an exit dot. It felt like continuation dot. I reached the edge dot, paused dot, just for a moment, then stepped forward, out of the park, onto the street dot. Everything shifted. Sound became clearer dot, movement returned dot, cars passing, people walking, normal. I turned around. The park behind me looked completely ordinary dot, paths dot, trees dot, nothing unusual dot, no circles dot, no patterns dot, no signs of what had happened. The park behind me looked completely ordinary dot, paths dot, trees dot, nothing unusual dot, no circles dot, no patterns dot, no signs of what had happened. I watched for a moment. People entered, chose paths, walked freely dot, no hesitation dot, no awareness. I nodded slowly, because now I understood something. They weren't choosing either. They just didn't know it. Turned away. Started walking down the street dot. Everything felt stable dot, consistent dot, but now I noticed it. Not in the park dot, in everything dot, the way people moved, the way streets aligned dot, the way decisions happened. Subtle, but present. I stopped, looked. Ahead dot, then behind dot, then to the side. Different directions dot, different options dot, and yet they all felt connected. Not identical, but leading towards something. I took a slow breath, then said quietly, "It was never about the park." Because now it was clear. The park didn't remove choice. It revealed something. That choice wasn't what it seemed. I continued walking. And for the first time, I didn't think about direction. I didn't compare, didn't hesitate. I just moved. And everything felt right, not because I chose correctly, but because there was nothing to choose between. Only a path that felt aligned. I walked further down the street, blending into everything around. Normal. Unnoticed. And yet aware. Because now I understood the final part. The park didn't trap you. It simplified you. Until there was only one way left, the one that didn't feel like a decision at all. I kept walking and didn't look back. I didn't think about the park anymore. Not the way I had before. It wasn't something behind me. It wasn't something I had left. It was something I had understood. I kept walking through the city. People moved around me, crossing streets, choosing directions. Stopping. Turning. It all looked random, unplanned. Free. But now I could see it. Not clearly, not as a pattern like before, but as a feeling, a quiet alignment beneath everything. Walked past an intersection. 4 directions. People choosing. Left. Right. Forward. Back. Just like the park. I stopped, looked at each direction. And for a moment, it felt the same. Different paths, but no real difference. I smiled slightly. Not because it was strange, because it made sense. I stepped forward. Without thinking, without choosing, just moving. And it felt correct. I continued walking. Through streets I knew, places I recognized. Everything normal. And yet everything felt simpler. No hesitation. No comparison. No second guessing. Just movement and alignment. I reached my building. Stopped at the entrance. Looked at the door. Then at the street behind me. For a brief moment, I imagined the park again. The circle, the paths, the choices that weren't choices. Then I stepped inside. The hallway was quiet. Light steady. No distortion. No repetition. Just space. I walked to my door, unlocked it. Entered. Everything inside was unchanged. Familiar. Still. Stood there for a moment. Then slowly walked to the center of the room. Stopped. And waited. Not expecting anything. Just present. Nothing shifted. Nothing repeated. Nothing needed to. I nodded. Because now I understood the final part. The park wasn't a place that controlled you. It was a place that removed everything. Unnecessary. Until only one thing remained. Not a direction. Not a path. Just movement that felt right. I sat down. Looked around the room. Everything felt complete. No extra meaning. No hidden structure. Just space. And for the first time, I didn't look for patterns. Because I didn't need to. They were already there. Quiet. Unnoticed. And that was enough. I leaned back, closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them. Again. Nothing had changed. And that was the point. I exhaled slowly, then said quietly, there was never more than one way. The silence didn't answer, but it felt correct. I stood up, walked toward the window, looked outside. The city stretched ahead, endless directions, endless movement. And yet, only one way to move through it. I turned away and kept going, not choosing. Just continuing. The end.